Good afternoon. Welcome back to the channel. This video is not financial advice, not a financial advisor. Do your own research, make your own decisions. All right, guys, welcome back. So this could be my part two where I pretty much discuss everything else. And I don't even know where I'm going to get started because there's so many different things happening. And in a general sense, it's going to be about a lot of the new functionality coming out with AI. Saw some upgrades go through here recently, and they're going to be discussing that on Monday, just the implications. So that's great. But I do feel like things are getting lost in translation to some degree with where we are right now and where all this is going and everything up relating to AI. And I can't overstress this point. This is not just them rolling out new AI functionality that can build custom web applications. And I would strongly, in the first 6 to 12 months, I would expect very simplistic functionality with this. But just the functionality in and of itself is not really the big conversation. The big conversation is what's possible with these types of AI models on ICP versus Web 2, because I can make a very, very strong case that on Web 2, there's going to be so many additional limitations and problems that are not going to exist on ICP. And honestly, if you really dig into this, I think it's inevitable that other models are used with artificial intelligence. And I wouldn't be surprised if, here's the thing, guys, I know that, and I can do a longer, and I'm going to do a longer video breaking down like bullet point by bullet point, all the ways in which AI would be different on ICP versus Web 2. But a lot of it gets into when you get to the more advanced large language models, giving them end user access on ICP versus Web 2 and all the complexity and the issues that come along with that. That's where the whole conversation is. Most of the conversation, other things as well, just ability to monetize, ability to audit, different things of that nature. But that's the whole conversation. If I can make as strong of a case for why big tech should use ICP as I can, and I can, and I can make a very, very strong case for why the functionality is going to have way too many limitations on Web 2. If I can make these strong cases I can, then I have to believe that the tech execs are very well aware of all these problems on Web 2 as it relates to deploying AI, the more advanced AI models. And I think it's very interesting. All these layers around these boxes, just I'll explain all of this. If you didn't watch my earlier videos about there's no fix for Web 2 architecture, which if you did not watch those videos, I would recommend doing so. But this just represents the layers of complexity, right? Different, let's say, firewalls, different database systems, all these issues system to system that can cause can cause compatibility issues when two systems are trying to talk to each other. On top of that, so you have complexity system to system, but you also have complexity within each individual system. So as Dominic was describing in his post the other day, how this would work on ICP versus how this would work on Web 2, the issue with prompting an AI model to change applications and just to continually customize applications day to day, week to week, the problem with that on Web 2 is that there's so many layers of complexity in just one application. There's different centralized companies involved, numerous different centralized companies involved in each application. And so when you're talking about end user access and permissions and things of that nature, there's a lot of issues that come up with this. And it's layered on top of a $10 trillion cybercrime problem. And that doesn't exist on ICP. And so there's more too, just when it gets into things like micropayments, the ability to have each AI model with its own Canister ID. So that way on-chain activity can be audited and any types of changes that happen to that AI model can also be recorded. I would argue that at some point in time, models that can solve for all these different things, they're probably going to be required in many situations. Yeah, I don't think that we're going to be on a web with a bunch of AI agents just running all over the place, doing whatever, with no ability to audit, with no visibility at all, with no real. It's going to be so difficult to isolate problems to where they don't cause potential the half of the web to go down. I mean, you really have to think this all the way through per what we were told, and who knows how true this was, but a faulty upgrade, a CrowdStrike, almost took half the web down. So just imagine a bunch of AI agents running all over Web 2, free range, and all the issues that could come up with that. And it's only going to take one really big problem. That's it. One. And this entire conversation changes. And guys, for all we know, I would always assume multiple different things to be true until you have seen enough to say, okay, that's not a realistic scenario here. I think it's entirely possible, maybe even likely, that the people at Dfinity just slow rolled everybody. We see what we see, right? With the different applications and things that we use. We don't see things potentially happening deep in the R&D department, right? And or if they're ever working with any institutions on anything, that can't be made public until all parties agree. And realistically, they can onboard a large majority of the world's population with 5 to 10 strategic partnerships and big integrations with large tech giants. Guys, you just got to think about it. Apple, how many people use Apple phones, Apple devices, iOS? How many people use Google? Just those two alone? You see what I'm saying? 2 strategic partnerships with 2 tech giants could potentially onboard 2-3 billion people, not all at once, not overnight. It would be a gradual, incremental thing. All implementation processes happen in phases, especially the bigger ones. And the bigger it gets, the more phases and the longer it takes. And so it's going to be like my last video, but I'll do a thorough, guys, I would be willing to have this conversation with pretty much anybody on earth at this point. I think there's going to be too many restrictions. And I want to hear good rebuttals to a lot of the issues that I've raised and a lot of the things that Dominic is raising. And it's very suspicious to me how nobody in the AI space is talking about this at all. Nobody's talking about deployment issues on Web 2. Nobody's saying, hey, I see a lot of issues here with deploying these more advanced AI models. It looks like I do think, and they're already starting to roll out more functionality. And I would expect to see that across the board over the next year or two on Web 2. But I think it's going to have to be in isolated environments. And so you're just restricting what's possible with AI on the web because you're using it on a web that has way too much complexity. It doesn't have universal standardized interoperability systems like you have with canisters and with WebAssembly. And so ICP solves for the complexity system to system, but it also solves for the complexity within each system, which are 2 different issues here that are very, very, very important for AI on the web. And so Dominic did give a good breakdown, just comparing and contrasting. Like, this is how it would be done on ICP. This is how it would be done on Web 2. And even if, let's just say, because I'm waiting for, guys, this functionality is about to be rolled out on ICP. I haven't gotten a notification from Google or from Apple or from any of these other big tech companies saying, hey, we're about to roll out this new functionality. Sign up and you want to get your own private cloud and we'll help with the setup on other things like your database and so on and so forth. We'll help set you up with a cybersecurity stack. I don't see anything like that. If I had to guess, it's because the tech executives are well aware of all the things that I've been over, all the things that Dominic's been over, talking about all the issues with this functionality on Web 2. And so we're not just talking about the automation of application level development, even though I would expect very simplistic functionality in the first 6 to 12 months. We're not just talking about that, okay? Because technically, those AI models could exist on Web 2 and probably will exist on Web 2, but just in isolated environments. But we're talking about that, the automation of web level development on top of solving for all the problems of AI. So security, transparency, guardrails, governance, monetization, customization, you have micropayments all worked into this, autonomous systems. Web 2 can't do this. They don't have something comparable to canisters in one fully integrated system. And while solving for all the problems of Web 2, read, write, own, data ownership, user owned and controlled applications and services, all IP protected, cybercrime solved, it's all of these things converging into one fully integrated system. And so it's not just more advanced AI models that can build custom web applications. It's all the other things that come along with it. It's really the properties of the software and the technology. And you got to understand that the properties of the software, all the benefits and advantages to using it in that network, that applies to everything that uses canisters. And great example, Decide AI and verifiable credentials. Can you do what they can do on other networks now, right? And we're starting to see integrations happen with other networks to use solutions like this because verifiable credentials is going to become a web standard, in my opinion. Whether people like that or don't like that, I'm just letting you know that's probably on the horizon. And we were talking about this earlier this year, right? Now, this is how ICP scales across other networks, is being able to create solutions like this, on-chain solutions like this, even though, yes, for certain AI use cases, it will take more time for everything to be done on-chain, right? Creating these types of solutions that then other networks incorporate into their services, incorporate into their ecosystem. It's how canisters just expand and scale across every single other network and all these other projects. Is when you have the best technical solutions to solve for whatever problem needs to be solved for, in this case, bots, verifiable credentials, so on and so forth, and your solution is better than all the other ones out there, and it's compatible with all these other networks. That's how canisters scale across everything. But this is too easy of a sell for me. Like, if I had to pick one like big tech company in one use case and just analyzing that, it's just too easy of a sell for me to not believe that. Again, I don't have all the data, but if I did, I'm almost positive that the ROI would be insane, that the risk reward here would be absolutely insane. Something beyond anything I've ever seen before, as far as a business case. And you're not giving up any control. You're not losing any clients. You're just migrating all of your, you're taking so many of the advantages and benefits of being a big tech giant and you're taking it to the new web with your AI models. But I really think, the canister ID for each agent, for each large language model, right? All of these things can be customized. You could have a stock market. You could have an exchange for AI models, right? All monetized 100%. It's just too big of an opportunity for tech giants to pass up on. Guys, the return on investment with AI is a thing that is being considered because you got to look at all the resources that are being spent on artificial intelligence. Think about all the compute needed for AI at scale and all those conversations that have been happening. A lot of resources are going into artificial intelligence. It's going to be very difficult to get the return on artificial intelligence and to realize its full potential without the right framework in place. We each need our own private cloud for this to be possible. On when is that going to start, right? When is that going to start? I see dfinity and ICP already moving forward with this functionality, and I don't see the functionality moving forward on Web 2 yet. And I think that when it does, it'll probably move forward in very isolated environments. And all of that is still with a big asterisk that you could be hacked at any point in time, and this could just turn into a major catastrophe any day with any given user exploit with their AI model, right? And this is when it comes to Web 2 infrastructure architecture. I think Dominic gave a great, like, I don't think he used it in this context, maybe use this for other layer ones, but the same example, holds true here. It's not like they can just slap some upgrade on Web 2 to fix all these issues. It would be like you're trying to, like in the air, like an airplane trying to transform into a rocket ship mid-flight, right? It's just there's too many issues with trying to do something like that in real time, and they can't get but so much of a better setup on Web 2. All right. And so that's why I refer to it as the biggest innovation in the history of web development, software, and IT, not just because it's AI models writing, basic custom applications. I'm not calling that in a vacuum the biggest innovation in the history of web development, software, and IT. I'm causing all of it together, solving for all these issues simultaneously with one fully integrated system as the biggest development in, software, IT, web development. Other networks still can't store photo. So seriously, it all comes down to the market and, narratives, but that can only last so long. All that's on borrowed time. Maybe I have another week, 2 weeks, month, 6 months. I don't know, year. I have no idea. The market, and another thing about the market and price, and I really hate even going here during this conversation. We're having a conversation about important things. I hate having to go to, lesser conversations, but I did the same thing with Bitcoin. Here's the last 60 days of ICP and the derivatives data for liquidations. Long liquidations, sell pressure, short liquidations, buy pressure. The ratio is the thing to pay attention to, in my personal opinion. Whether or not it's close to kind of even over a 6-month time frame, or whether it's very skewed in one direction or the other, right? And ICP, long to short liquidation ratio, has been skewed for 3 years. And I can't help but notice that some of the other better performing assets don't have this ratio. And so it's just kind of confusing to me why traders have never in 3 years flipped position. It's not that doesn't look like a normal organic thing to me. Over a 3-year time frame, this ratio remained this skewed and people never flip positioning. And I could make a much thorough, and it's like I'd never even looked at Solana versus ICP until here recently, just because people were, oh, Solana's doing better. Okay, cool, let's go look at the data. Is this all the data? Does it give us everything? No, but the derivatives market is where the majority of volume comes from. And long liquidations do count for selling pressure. Short liquidations do add to buying pressure. And so this ratio is not an irrelevant detail. Asset to asset. Okay. All right. And so here's another thing. People are talking about like delays. Guys, any type of major technical upgrade, especially, I mean, I'm going to openly refer to this as what I just said, like the biggest, innovation in the history of web development, software, and IT. Major technical upgrades oftentimes are pushed back. I mean, I could come up with there's so many, just ask your AI model, hey, not basic updates or upgrades. I mean, like major developments and innovations and things of that nature, a lot of times they're delayed. Things happen. There's a lot of moving parts. Again, you got to go back to the conversation from yesterday. What are we talking about? We're potentially talking about migrating from one web to another web. There's no bigger conversation we could be having. And the innovation that they're talking about is like adding warp drive technology to the web. So, taking all that into consideration, I would be very fluid with your time frames and timelines, regardless of what you hear. Because I hate to say it, but when it comes to significant technical upgrades, I'm not going to say it's the standard that they're delayed, but it's pretty common throughout history. and tons of different examples with tons of different major technical upgrades with different companies. Yeah, I just don't see the future being IT bulk emailing the whole fucking company. And, hey, can you see if this is, if you click on this link, but this word was misspelled and now you got to take a training course and all this other shit. It's like, if that's where we're at the corporate level, is 25 layers of cybersecurity, and IT is bulk emailing the whole fucking company every single day just to try to see if they're going to click on the link. This is not the future. Okay. Um, and if it's not going to be a new model like this, then I think it's going to have to be a model like, I don't know what else to say. Or I think we're just going to be hacked into oblivion, and or assuming that tech CEOs, and personally, I think they're very well aware of emerging technologies, guys. I think if I can see this as clear as I can and make as strong of a case as I can for it, uh, I, I'd be naive to think that they don't know about everything. But realistically, and mass adoption can happen in other ways. I just want to make the point that they can onboard lots of people, billions, through a few different strategic partnerships and major integrations with tech giants. All right. And with Dominic's post the other day, talking about how, ICP was designed specifically for this, and this work has been ongoing for years. I'm not saying this is, I don't know. I'm just trying to make sense of this the best that I can. I would not rule out the possibility that dfinity just slow rolled everybody. Okay. Um, and I get the whole thing with price. I don't know what else to tell you. Try to time the market. I don't know. Right. I can show you the derivatives. My whole thing is like, I'm trying to accurately lay out what's coming. I tell everybody, like, when it comes to the market and everything like that, my goal is to lay out what's coming, right? If you want to try to like jump in and out and here, there, and everywhere, I hope it works out for you. I genuinely do. I can't add any value to that, you in that department. I wouldn't want to take that on. Up down calls. Okay. There's two options, and we're in a heavily manipulated market, in my opinion. So that's not a thing I'm interested in doing. There's nobody really laying out the future of where all this is going, or even trying to, because I could very well be wrong about different things. But there's nobody even attempting to paint a picture of where this is going based on where we are now and all the technical functionality and tech trends in general sense. So my goal is just to be accurate about the future of where all this is going. Yeah. And I think price and value will meet. I think price and value will have to meet at some point in time. And yeah, so I would expect to see a lot of the things that I see right now, especially even with the market, because look at the effect that it's having, right? It's convincing everybody that this is not one of the biggest deals in tech, software, IT, and AI. When its valuation's at its lowest, that's the perception that it's creating. And so if this is as big of a deal as I believe that it is, and if it is going to become the hub for Web3, as I believe it's going to, I'm not surprised that we're seeing what we're seeing with all that. I may even expect to see that more than everybody screaming from the rooftops. This is the biggest opportunity ever. Like, people live in this reality where people in important positions of authority and influence are going to come out and just lay everything out for you when the opportunity is at its highest. They'll come out after that time period fades, and after more things start getting talked about in much wider circles. But they're not going to come out screaming from the rooftops when the opportunity is at its peak. All it's going to take is one major partnership and integration with one tech giant, and them starting to move certain things over. And it's going to be a domino effect, in my opinion. I think it's going to be very similar to what people thought was going to happen and what may happen with countries and central banks and Bitcoin. How it's kind of like a race. I think there's going to be a very similar situation that plays out with the big tech AI models and with AI models in a general sense. I think AI is going to go where the most opportunity is. And if the most opportunity and the gap between the opportunity on Web 2 and ICP, because just saying there's more opportunity on ICP is not truly highlighting how big of a gap it is with what's possible on ICP versus what's possible on Web 2. The gap is similar to big circles, small, like similar to this. Okay. What's possible on Web 2 with AI? If you go through all the different criteria, not looking at one thing, right? You have to look at everything versus what's possible with AI on ICP. And when you add on top of that, you're solving for the $10 trillion cybercrime problem and you're monetizing everything. Yeah. I think it's very possible. And another thing too is that, I hear this a lot. Oh, well, the ICP people are a cult or there's an orthodoxy. No, it's just stating factual information. There's no other networks that can host applications. There's no other networks that can host artificial intelligence. So there's no other applications that can host AI models building custom web applications. They can't even store a photo. So it's not that I'm in a cult or other people are in a cult or anything. Other people may act like that. I'm judging all of this based on facts, evidence, and data. Okay. If you have a token database that can't store a photo, and this thing could potentially be the hub for the new web, that I'm going to openly say that this is just in its own category and you can miss me with all this other bullshit in this space. Okay? If the gap in functionality wasn't this big between what ICP can do, what everything else can do, if it wasn't this big, I wouldn't be saying all the things that I'm saying. So it has nothing to do with an orthodoxy or a cult or anything like that. Yeah. It's just going off of the facts, evidence, and data in front of me. And just because price is down, that doesn't make this gap any different. Price could be down, and that's not going to make other layer ones be able to host applications. It's not going to make other layer ones be able to host AI models. It's not going to improve their functionality. ICP's price being down in no way, shape, form, fashion is going to close the gap in technical functionality with any other layer ones. And so if the only reason people are bitching is because price is down, I'm going to ignore it because to me, it's just surface level noise. It's just noisy shit posting. Doesn't mean I'm in a cult. It might just mean you're having an emotional breakdown on social media because price isn't moving and you're losing sight, you're losing perspective. That's probably the most likely explanation. Not that I'm or anybody else in the ICP space in a cult. It's just that you're having an emotional breakdown. You don't really have a very good read on this. You can't differentiate ICP from everything else. And I don't know what else to say. One of these things can do everything and can be the hub for Web3, and everything else is a token database. So until that changes, my position is going to be the same on most things. Guys, Elon is apparently see what's happening in the world. Elon's apparently taking over a branch of government that is created for him, the Doge, Department of Government Efficiency, or whatever it's called, the CEO takeover, as we talked about on the channel very long ago, right? It's happening in real time. Tech is moving forward, okay? Tech is moving forward, in my opinion. And I think that if you're here right now, I'll say the same thing I was saying like a month or so ago. I think you'll see what you need to see in the next 6 to 12 months. Okay? If you make it that far. Which I hope everybody does. But at the end of the day, people have to make their own decisions. And let's just say you're extremely concerned. And I think I would always look at doing things on a spectrum. Like even if you're very concerned, you're like, I'm going to sell. You don't have to sell all of it. Sell 90% of it. Just holding some ICP at a low valuation, not financial advice, might be a good way to hedge your bets there. Like people have lost the concept. It's all black and white. I'm getting out of this, right? Are you 100% sure? Or are you 80% sure? 70, 50? Are you just frustrated with price? In case you're wrong, or in case tech actually does start fucking mattering, or in case this gap in technical functionality gets priced in, maybe you want to leave 10%, 20% of your position just in case. But it's like that all goes out the window in times where emotion and fear is high. Yeah, the exponential age is on the horizon, guys. Like, look around. The old world is going bye bye. The old world's going bye bye, and rigid mental frameworks are not going to serve you well in the future. I'm telling you that right now. Having an attitude of, you know, always wanting to learn more and being very curious about important things, and you have all the information you could need. You have access to all the information you could need. Probably have access to AI models that can answer a lot of questions and cut down the learning curve. But we're heading into the exponential age. Or everything's going to blow up and we're going into the Stone Age. One or the other. And if we're going into the exponential age, we need the technology to do so. And we have to, there has to be a solution for this. Period. End of story. This will slow everything down. This will more or less prevent us from getting certain places with technology and with advancement of technology if this isn't solved for. The people at dfinity are the only people who built a solution that really solves for it. And I think there's going to be, over a long enough time frame, every incentive imaginable for big tech AI models to be deployed on ICP. It's one of the strongest business cases for this that I've ever seen for anything. But we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. I have no idea when the market's going to move. And I have no idea when the market's going to move. Maybe next week, maybe next month. I would expect the shakeout to be proportionate to the size of the opportunity. Okay? Shakeout proportionate to the size of the opportunity. And don't work backwards from price isn't moving, so that means things are wrong. That's what a lot of people are doing. They're working backwards from everything. This all can't be true. This opportunity can't be this big. Like what you're saying, it can't be true because if all this was true, if this could really do this stuff, if it was really a better setup than Web 2, if it was really that much more advanced than all these other layer ones, then price would be skyrocketing. And that's reverse logic. All of those things can be true and price be doing exactly what it's doing. And all the people that normally bring up price as an issue, most of them that I interact with, it sounds like they don't even have a good understanding of how the market's designed. I'm not saying I understand 100% of how the market is designed, but I've done a lot of research into this. And I know that the majority of volume comes from the derivatives market. And I know that long liquidations add to sell pressure and short liquidations add to buy pressure. And I can do these ratios and look at different metrics and look at different trends and notice very interesting things. And given that that's only one data point, and there's a 100-to-1 leverage trading market that affects spot price 1-to-1, given I know that, and given I know there's nothing stopping exchanges, market makers, or anybody from managing price action, given they have a tool, the derivatives market, built into the whole market itself that can make this possible with artificial sell pressure and or buy pressure. Given I know that exists, I don't have 100% proof that XYZ exchange is doing it. But it's one data point. I'm not going to use that one data point to work back and to convince myself that this other stuff that's very much real and right in front of me and I can verify is just not there or that it doesn't matter. Because that argument only works until price moves. And then when price moves, bam, the whole argument's gone. That's a problem with working backwards and using reverse logic. That's it. Not financial advice. Do your own research. That's it. Okay. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Take care. Have a good day. I'll see you in the next video.